Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another freelance teacher video podcast in the studio, back in school. You see the threads, tie, $200 silk tie, $5,000 love seat here in the studio, 5 cars in charge. Yep, it's that time again, back in the grind, back to work. And it is work. Teachers are well paid, but the work is hard. I have to admit, you're dealing with people all the time. That unto itself can be difficult. But our schedules are great. So we are well paid because our schedules are it's just such a cake schedule that you can't justifiably complain. But that's actually not the reason why I chose the title I did today of Why the Bad School Stays Bad. There's an instance at work where it is a microcosm. It's the perfect lens into why the bad school stays bad. And it's something that most people who went to school in America anyway, maybe even Britain and or the West Indies, possibly India, can understand. Because you see the infection, the infectious disease, the cancer that comes in through what we today would call modern progressivism, liberalism in terms of education. We have a teacher who's a West Indian woman and a good teacher. She's a good English teacher. She is solid. She actually graduated from the school where I work, and she is dedicated to her craft. She is also somewhat old-fashioned. What I mean by that is she has students do weekly vocabulary quizzes, and she tests them on vocabulary words. She also has reading comprehension. She'll have essays with some regularity. Good deal of homework assigned in her class. Picture your standard classical English class, and that's what you're going to get. Rigid rules. Don't have your phone out. Focus on the class itself. Participate when called upon. Write copious notes. Class notes all the time. I mean, really standard stuff. We all had it as English students in American and probably, I'm guessing, in West Indian and British and Indian schools. Picture your cookie cutter, garden variety, classical English class. Do you have an essay? Yes. Compositions, for sure. Maybe you end the year with a debate that you have to prepare for. Spelling actually is graded when you write. Spelling matters. And this teacher runs her class that way. She gets results, and she is also a mother. So what happens is you have a serious person in front of the room. No games. Don't have the phone out. Don't want to see your social media account. Don't care about how many likes, how many subs. None of that stuff. Now, the interesting part is she has to work this year with a younger teacher who's newer to the profession and is keyed on the quote-unquote new way. So when I say liberal and progressive instruction, I'm talking about instruction that is approved by your modern day globalist, liberal, politically correct, progressive educational establishment. So what it's done is shown me, right? So you have these two people, and they both have come to bitch and moan, complain. Actually, those are harsh words. They both come to voice their concerns to me because I like both people, and both teachers get results in their own way to some degree, but the methods show you how modern day instruction is worse and doomed to fail, and why the bad school stays bad. The newer teacher, the younger teacher, is smart in a lot of ways. She's an intelligent person, but she also knows that because she's not a tenured teacher, which means she doesn't have a job for life, and that's what a tenured teacher has. It has the tenured teacher. I have a lifetime job. I will get paid as a high school English teacher in the public school system until I decide to make it stop or die. And I can't be fired, barring heinous activities. So she's trying to get a permanent job. She's trying to get a tenured position. So she's playing it smart and safe, and she's following the orders of the modern day educational establishment, and they are the tenets, these ways, these rules are the things that keep the bad school bad. And here's what I'm talking about. The students react well to the new teacher who has to work with the traditional teacher, because new teacher comes in and, well, guess what? You could kind of sit on the ledge if you want to. You can, get up and use the bathroom whenever you damn please. Maybe a cursory fake ask, but get up and take the pass and go. If your phone rings, take the call, but be polite. Take it in the hallway. This is high school English, mind you. You also can be on your phone, because being on your phone while class is going on doesn't matter, because you are what we like to call today in modern progressive liberal education, you are multitasking. See how that works? You're multitasking. And you know what? So if you get the results anyway, do we really care? So, and you know what? If you get substandard work, if the student does substandard work, I'm talking quite below average. It's just a learning process. And if you saw that student goofing off on the phone, constantly getting up to go to the bathroom or talk with friends, taking a phone call, wasting time, and that student then hands in substandard work or no work at all, well, whenever you get it to me, you get it to me. I got you. Teachers they got to take late work. Students have stuff going on, right? Their parents are all over the place. Who knows what's going on at the house? Poor child. They need extra time. So if they're on Snapchat on their phone or Instagram or anything else, and the work doesn't come in, well, you know what? They were multitasking and they were busy, and they'll get it to you later. These kinds of rules are cancer. They are poison. Yet, this is the prevailing ethos in the bad neighborhood school that has been infected by social justice. It's been, I should say, social justice warriors, because I don't really know what social justice is. I've never gotten a definition for it. I've mentioned to students it just sounds like revenge. Anytime someone says social justice, it just sounds like someone getting back at somebody else because of historical things that none of them were involved in. But social justice warrior, progressive liberal types, this is the kind of ethos, this is the kind of lack of standards, belief system that gets installed in the bad neighborhood school. And very few people fight back. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you go to administration and you get, reprimanded, you get barked at a little bit for having vocabulary quizzes, or your passing rate is too low, it should be higher, or the assistant principal says to you when a student gets a phone call, "What did you let the student take the phone call in the hallway and not disturb the class?" This is the kind of thing that runs rampant in the bad school. And here's the sinister part. The teachers who maintain an orderly, disciplined, normal, rigorous, standards-having style of class, they actually lose 9 times out of 10. I mean, you're going to get exceptions. You'll get people who are rigorous and have a ton of standards, and they wind up being beloved by parents, and they wind up then becoming unmovable. They wind up becoming somebody because, admin is too scared to mess with them, so they just leave them alone. But a freewheeling, carefree, no groundings classroom is the modern day classroom in the bad neighborhood. Now, sometimes that freewheeling, open area type class works. It can work. The Sudbury Valley School I told you about a couple of podcasts ago is proof. But we don't have that in the bad neighborhood. We have a lot of fights. We have people who lack self-discipline. We have people responding to, what's the word I'm looking for? Instant gratification. They are just unable to do anything but respond to urges that satisfy instant gratification. And some of it is just the pattern of the school. Like it's never quashed. It's never stopped. So you want to get up and talk to your friend in the hallway? Get up and do it. You got a phone call? Take it. You want to go on Snapchat? Go on your phone. A place like mine doesn't have the school culture where you can just say, you know what, we're really going to lax the rules, show up and do whatever you feel like for 6.5 hours a day, because we have classes. We are not Sudbury Valley School. So what happens is you have this pseudo open school with a very rigorous, regimented schedule. And you can't have both. Yet the bad neighborhood school gets funding, gets dollars for abominations like Common Core. It gets funding for holding programs that might help students, but those students don't get rigor and structure during the day. So because they don't get rigor and structure during the day, they academically fail. And then when they academically fail, now we need to get a federal or state program and those dollars in here so that we can fix it. But you could have fixed it with traditional teacher X and having an army of women like her with rock-ribbed standards, not letting it go to seed. But now it's too late. Now you get money for failure. Failure attracts money. You get young teachers who think that multitasking on your phone while in class is okay. And I mentioned earlier that the traditional teacher is a mother for a reason. Because no parent listening to this is going to let their child goof off on the phone while they're in class. And if you have a child, you have a son or a daughter in high school, and you found out that he was on the phone in the middle of English class when you're reading about the Scylla and Charybdis and analyzing the poetry and then going to need to write about it at the end of the period, and you find out that your child is on the phone, you'd go bananas and you know it. And that matters. Not all great teachers are parents. Obviously, I know the people on the spectrum are going to come out in the woodwork and go bananas in the comments. Oh, my favorite teacher doesn't have children. Right, okay, go back on the spectrum. I get it. That's not what I'm talking about. But in this instance, one of the things that would change younger freewheeling teacher lady is if she had kids and someone were to ask her, if your 9th grade son were goofing off on Snapchat or posing for Instagram in English class, would you be okay? I think we all know the answer to that. I think everybody in the world knows the answer to that. 2 final points. So what this does is we in the bad school, it spreads. Young teachers come in with this nonsense, modern education, the new way. The research tells us that students need to multitask and they need to have no rules. And if you have rules and you give vocabulary quizzes, well, that's so throwback. That's the traditional Western European way of education. And you know why I said that? Because our admin is reading a book that maligns traditional education. It says that Western classical education model sucks. Now, the fact that the West took over the planet, it's over, right? The West's reign is over. Within 10 years, it's China, and the West had a good 300 years. It's finished. Stick a fork in it. It's done. But the fact that that type of education worked, now it didn't work for everybody. Didn't work that well for my brother. Didn't work that well for students of mine that have gone on to much bigger and better things once they got out of school. But on the whole, if you're going to have a group go into a school and have standards and be held accountable, you need to have that kind of rigor, classic Western education. Sit in rows, focus, take exams, do your thing, right? Traditional school. So the staff, no, not the staff, the administration is reading a book that, of course, has the standard like anti-white rhetoric. The title is something like "White People Teaching How White People Need to Teach in Black Neighborhoods," or how white teachers in bad neighborhoods, or something like that. And you know, I'm not a censorship guy, and I know Hitler was condemned for book burning, but maybe in this case he had the right idea, because that sounds like a lot of stupidness. Because it's, they're talking about race. This is what I was talking about. And those white Western Europeans who ruled Earth for 300 years, well, we're just going to take that unfortunate and inconvenient fact, throw it in the garbage, and say what they did to train their young people was pointless. Well, I'm going to let you in on something. The wealthy areas, with a few exceptions, the wealthy conservative areas don't go for this new progressive liberal education stuff. I tutor those students. They're up county in Westchester, where they pay $50,000 a year in property tax. And no, I did not misspeak when I said that. And their students get buried. They actually get too much work. But they just get hammered. I had a student at Kent, the private boarding school up in Connecticut. He had an essay every night, a 1-page essay every night in English class. Do you think they let them sit on their phone so they can multitask on Snapchat at Kent or Choate or Exeter Academy or Hotchkiss or any of those places? Hell, they don't do it in the public schools in the good neighborhoods, but we do it in the bad neighborhood, and that's why it stays bad. Right? That's my first of my last 2 points. Last point totally is that Western civilization stuff being toast, that really seems to be how it's going to go. It's good to know what's coming. I'm not depressed. I don't sell despair. Know what's coming, adjust, get you and your family set up. It's not a zombie apocalypse, it's the rise of China. And probably India. So our students are goofing off in the classroom, multitasking on Instagram, and the Chinese, to put it mildly, are not doing that. They're hungry. They study all the time. If you lower the standards, they get angry. If you have test prep, they take it. If you have a system where hard work gets you by, they will work hard. And if they have figure out a way to work harder, they'll do it. And that's, I mean, they took the loss the last 75 years, right? They got infected with that communism, socialism stuff, and they offed 75 million of their own people. Whoops. But they're not doing that now. They're not multitasking on social media, in English class, or any class for that matter. And they're going to win. And we're going to lose. So we're doing a disservice to young people in the bad neighborhood, because these types of things keep the bad neighborhood school bad. It's why the bad neighborhood school stays bad, because we punish those with standards and traditional methods. Figure a way to get them out eventually. And we bring in the new stuff. Well, no one else is doing that. And we're going to lose. But just in case you're wondering why, when you go by the bad neighborhood school, you hear screaming. You see fights. A year ago, about 11 months ago, we had 14 fights in one day. We have fights all the time, inside and outside. So when you go by the bad neighborhood school and you see the fights, and you hear the screaming and the yelling and the whooping and the hollering and madness and lack of self-discipline, we go for that in the building. We allow it. They're not doing that in the districts and countries that win and have good schools. They're going to stay good, and the bad neighborhood school is going to stay bad. And that's how it works. And this is a view from the inside, from me. So mark my words, this is how it goes. In case you're wondering, with yourself or your children or whatever, you take a look at the school building, you see what they practice, see what it looks like, and it'll tell you right away what's going on. That's my inside information for you today. I'll talk to you next time. Get on my mailing list, and we'll converse and compare notes via email, and everything will be better. Talk to you soon. Take care.